Production of Kansas City Week in Review is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, Smithfield Foods, Haas and Wilkerson Insurance, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Coming up, well, is there a verdict? The courts finally weigh in on school funding in Kansas. As K-State loses its leader, could its next one be Governor Sam Brownback? Missouri lawmakers wrap up their work. What did they actually do? Plus, how many arenas does Kansas City need? Is Johnson County about to build one of the Metro's largest? And raiding Kansas City's new streetcar line, did it really deliver as promised? Hello, I'm Nick Haynes. Those stories and more coming up. It is good to have you with us again as we connect the dots on the big local stories of the week. Ready to be pithy and insightful is Steve Kraske, host of Up to Date on KCUR-FM, and Pitch reporter Steve Vokrot, former Star columnist, now writing for the Pitch newspaper, freelance reporter Barbara Shelley, and Star reporter, columnist and blogger Dave Helling. Now, did Kansas lawmakers do enough to satisfy the state's highest court this week? The 9 justices hearing oral arguments this week over school funding. The Kansas Supreme Court gave lawmakers an ultimatum: make funding equitable or face a shutdown on schools. The court listened to arguments on both sides for more than 2.5 hours this week. Did they deliver a verdict, Steve Kraske?
The court has not delivered a verdict, and the betting line among lawmakers, at least, both Democrats and Republicans, Nick, is that the legislature did not do enough to meet the court mandate here. So as of right now, Kansas looking at least at the possibility of a July 1st shutdown of schools. I think what we expect to see is that the court will render an opinion here in the next week or two, and most likely lawmakers will be called back to Topeka to deal with what they didn't get done.
Because the lawmakers just ended their session last Friday, so they're not there right now to actually fix anything, Barbara.
Right. The only thing they would come back for is to deal with the school funding issue, but it's not going to be easy to find any kind of solution to that if the court says they need to put more money into the formula right now.
So if you're a parent in the state of Kansas or a grandparent and you have a child in this one of the districts in Kansas, so what should you be doing at this point in time, Steve?
Well, there's not much you can do. I mean, you can try calling your legislator, and if you can get them on the phone, tell them what you think. But you know, if the legislature gets called back to fix it, it's going to be a hasty fix, and it may not even be adequate, even because the budget that they passed is so tight. So it's shaping up to be a real issue for the summer.
And can I just say, Nick, it doesn't have to be this way. They have come up with a different school finance formula for each of the last 3 years, but nothing that resembles a real comprehensive fix to the whole problem. And there's been no serious effort to come up with a real comprehensive fix, and that's the way Kansas government operates now. It lurches from crisis to crisis, and it doesn't have to be that way.
And Dave Helling, you know, some lawmakers would say it doesn't have to be this way. If it wasn't for activist judges, we wouldn't be in this mess either.
Right, and that's why I disagree a little bit slightly with the idea that it's inevitable that the court will rule against the legislature and everyone will have to come back. There is a chance. Remember, the Supreme Court is going to be a huge issue in the fall. Some of the justices are up for retention votes. And I think they may understand that the last thing they want is for the court to be blamed for the budget headaches in the state of Kansas, which Governor Brownback and conservative Republicans would certainly do. If the court comes out and says, you've got to come back, you've got to fix this part of it, the first thing they're going to say is, see, it's the judges, that's why we're in trouble, that's why we're so short of money, that's why this state is on the downhill path. And I think they may understand that, particularly since the bigger piece of this, Nick, the adequacy part, is still to be heard, maybe later this year, a ruling perhaps next year. So there's a chance, I'm not saying it's a great chance, but in my mind there's a good chance the judges might say, let's put this all off until next year when we have a new legislature and we take a fresh look at this.
Steve.
Right, and this whole issue with the equity portion of this is just sort of a preview to what, you know, as Dave alluded to, is the bigger issue that's looming with adequacy, because there are some studies that suggest that Kansas has underfunded schools on an adequacy basis by many hundreds of dollars per student. And if the courts come back and render a harsh ruling on that, it gets into real budget crisis.
But isn't it the case, though, there are a lot of states, though, who are being fought by the courts on this very issue of equity? This is not just a Kansas problem, Steve.
No, it's not. But clearly there were signals from the bench during the hearing last week from at least one justice, maybe two, who said to the state attorney, hey, we've been dancing this dance now for any number of years. We've got to move forward and get this thing resolved. Barb's right. It's been going on year after year after year. The Supreme Court knows that as well as anybody. And just to underscore a point my colleagues here are making, this is the small dollar court case now before the court. The big one, the big kahuna, the hundreds of millions of dollars potentially court case still looms down the road here. That's the one that could result in a constitutional crisis.
That's why I think there's a possibility that the judges will say, in essence, let's not shut down the schools over this small piece, when in essence the huge thing is coming, and that sort of nuclear option will still need to be on the table. So again, I don't think it's 100% certainty. It may be 50-50, but the judges may in essence say, look, this isn't what we want, but it'll get by for now. Let's take another look at it
Now,
next
while
year.
school funding was one of the big issues of the session, so was finding hundreds of millions of dollars to fill a massive budget hole in the state. But rather than make massive cuts in programs, state lawmakers headed for home, leaving that job to Governor Sam Brownback to achieve. Why, Barbara?
Well, I think they figured, you know, they've got elections coming up, and he's not going to run again, so, you know, let him do the real dirty work.
So they weren't being tremendously courageous, were they?
This is unbelievable. You know, they are elected to balance budgets and deal with these issues, Nick, and yet in this election year, Barb is exactly right. I wrote a column about this. They punted. They said, hey, Governor Brownback is less popular than we are. He's not on the ballot this year. Let him do the dirty work of cutting higher education and highways and everything else in the state government right now. It was a tremendous passing of the buck. Courageous? Absolutely not.
Do we have any sense, though, of what those cuts would now be in the state of Kansas?
I don't have any real immediate sense. It's probably going to be more of the same, cutting programs, borrowing from one fund to pay things in the other. It's worth noting that Moody's, one of the credit rating agencies, has downgraded bonds for several of the Kansas public universities, and they're suggesting that the state's budget is so untenable that bondholders would do well to reconsider the risk associated with investing in those bonds.
One of the big issues is whether the governor will, in essence, cut government by the same amount, 1%, 2% across the board, and nick every state department, or whether or not he'll decide to sort of target the cuts to higher education, which is where they've gone before, borrow more money from the state roads fund, which they've done before and before and before and before. So there are different, approaches he might take. There is a sense among some legislators, Nick, I will tell you, that you're right, their cowardice was plain for all to see, but the other attitude is, Governor Brownback, you broke it, you bought it, you solved this problem. We're not going to bail you out. And I think a lot of Democrats and moderates had this view, which is why, by the way, they didn't raise taxes this time. Is let the governor sort of stew in the water that he's created for himself.
They all bought it together. Many of these lawmakers voted for these tax cuts, but there is some of that going on here. There's certainly also, Nick, you can conclude here, a certain weariness among lawmakers who are getting so tired of having to cut this budget year after year after year and dealing with these issues. For them to say, hey, Governor, you deal with this, certainly suggests they're tired of the whole mess.
And perhaps Governor Sam Brownback is getting tired too, because he may have 2 years left of his term, but is it conceivable he will depart the job early to take the helm at his alma mater, Kansas State University? Kansas City Star columnist Steve Rose, plus the Topeka Capital Journal and the Lawrence Journal-World, all reporting on this story this week. In March, K-State President Kirk Schultz took the top job at Washington State University. The chairman of the search committee to replace him is a generous supporter of Brownback's election campaigns. Is it implausible that Brownback could become head of K-State, or is there some validity to this, Barbara?
It is a really intriguing rumor, and like everybody's talking about it. But, Governor Brownback did appoint all of the regents who will make the final decision on who's going to be the next president at K-State. But the regents have to live in their communities. And the head of the search committee is a regent named Dennis Mullins, who is from Manhattan. which is a good move. Well, I just don't know. I mean, right now, Governor Brownback's stock in Manhattan, Kansas, and all the universities is so low that I don't know how Harry Mullins could remain in Manhattan if he presided over the committee that would make Governor Brownback the president of K-State.
But there has been a trend of top politicians becoming the heads of universities. We had Mitch Daniels in Indiana becoming the head of Purdue, the head of the former governor of Oklahoma is the head of the University of Oklahoma. Why not this? Doesn't it seem potentially plausible?
Yes, and it makes a lot of sense on a lot of levels. Governors deal with budgets and they know how to work with lawmakers. A university might be wise to go that way, absolutely. But keep in mind, this is a governor who has been booed roundly at big sporting events in Kansas the last couple of years. And how is the faculty at K-State going to live with a governor who has cut millions and millions out of the K-State budget going forward? I think that would be a pretty tough pill for them to swallow.
But being a leader of a university is a money game today, and who better than a politician to be able to get that money, as Steve mentions, from, say, wealthy donors, but also cash-strapped state legislatures, Dave. He'd be able to work with legislators to try and get money out of them, wouldn't he?
Well, he would have to have chutzpah beyond all recognition to do that, since he has led the parade to cut funding for schools like Kansas State and the University of Kansas and others. Plus, keep this in mind, Nick, Sam Brownback is the most unpopular governor in America today in his state. 26% approval.
For the second year in a row.
So the idea that he would somehow escape to take over leadership of one of his flagship, one of the state's flagship universities without prior academic experience is far-fetched, to say the least, and he would certainly take heat for it. Not to mention that Jeff Collier would become the governor, and that Sam Brownback would continue his career in the public rather than the private sector. I don't think it's going to happen.
Barbara.
I just will say, I think that the cuts that have been made to the universities, Brownback has done reluctantly. They are never his first choice for cuts, and in fact, he's tried to save the universities from cuts at a time. He's never been as harsh on the universities in his vocabulary and the messages he sends as he has been on K-12 education.
Right, but to be clear, given the choice between cutting universities and raising taxes, the governor has always gone for cutting rather than raising taxes.
Now, Missouri lawmakers, because we want to go to the Missouri side of state line, because there is stuff happening over there. They're winding down their session today. This is Friday the 13th. They've tackled everything from religious freedom amendments to personhood amendments that would grant rights to the unborn, to legalizing medical marijuana, to loosening gun rules. I said that's what they talked about. What did they actually achieve, Steve Okra?
They haven't achieved too much. I mean, they kind of front-loaded things with some of these social issue bills. Senate Joint Resolution 39, they spent a lot of time with, and that didn't even make it out of committee. That was the religious freedom bill, as they like to call it. In effect, it does something else. So they didn't get that done. Ethics reform, that was a big thing that they talked about prior to the session. It looks like that's going to, there's going to be some water falling on the embers of that.
But they've spent basically a third of the year in Jefferson City. If you're a voter in the state of Missouri, what have lawmakers done for you over that third of a year, Barbara?
Well, that's a good question. I've begun to think of the Missouri legislative session in terms of what little harm is done, and I've been relieved actually at some of the bills that haven't passed this year. One thing appears they've totally whiffed on again is, some kind of financing for roads and bridges. We have this situation right in downtown Kansas City with a bridge closed, and it's a state-owned bridge. And, I don't think they're going to get any kind of plan for funding for the roads this session either.
Okay. Can you point to anything that they've accomplished, or you think, wow, that's something worthwhile?
No,
Steve?
Nick, not much. I don't think the lives of the typical Missourian out there are going to be affected one way or the other by this General Assembly. Reporters like me, columnists, we've been banging our hands and stomping our feet over ethics reform and the loose, Wild West lack of regulation in Jeff City. They're going to walk away from this session with hardly even touching what they themselves decided was their top issue this session. That's hardly hardly a big endorsement.
Okay, Mr. Positivity, Dave Helling, come on. Can you come up with something that the
Yes.
Missouri legislature has done that is there's been a big accomplishment this
Yes,
year?
I believe that it is unfair of us to look at Kansas and criticize that legislature for making hash out of the state budget and tax policy, and then in essence blame Missouri for inaction in the same way. The state of Missouri is relatively current on its bills, is relatively healthy financially. You don't see the hand-wringing for budget cuts in Missouri that you do in Kansas. The schools are underfunded in Missouri, but not to the extent that they may be in Kansas. I think that by and large, the blocking and tackling of state government is paying your bills, collecting enough revenue to get things done, and then look at some of these other issues which I think they spend far too much time on. So Mr. Positivity will tell you that they are getting out of Jefferson City with the state budget intact. That is a victory and something we should talk about.
But that's the lowest common denominator.
Right, but
here.
it's
if you run
something.
through a series of metrics in the state of Missouri right now, and Barb has done this before, where we rank a series of metrics for health care, for education, for highways. You know, Missouri is 45th, 48th, 49th on metric after metric after metric. That is, you know, arguably where a lot of Missourians don't think that state needs to be.
And they spend far too much time, Nick, on things that don't really matter, like voter ID or which bathroom you use or religious
Personhood,
freedom,
the
personhood or
personhood
whatever.
amendment, yeah.
Far too much time on those issues which have a political resonance but don't really matter in the lives of most people. And not enough time on things like roads and the condition of the schools. And so you're right, you can knock them down for that. But as Kansas shows us, an activist legislature can be a disaster, and Missouri, for the most part, has avoided that.
Coming up next, it's finally up and running. We review Kansas City's new streetcar line. But first, large crowds gather in Kansas City, Kansas to mourn a fallen police officer this week. Brad Lancaster gunned down in the line of duty. His death definitely dominating the coverage on every local news outlet in the metro. We are becoming accustomed to one homicide headline after another. The killing of a cop, though, still sparks a heightened level of community outrage, Barbara?
And I don't think we'd want to live in a community where the, killing, a murder of a law enforcement officer didn't spark a great deal of outrage. And I will say that was, that was actually a crime spree that was not only the murder of the officer, but a kidnapping of children. And, it's just fortunate that more people weren't killed for the whole thing. It was truly a heinous crime.
Steve.
Well, I couldn't agree more, and it's great to see the community sort of speak out against something like this. Likewise, with that controversial Kansas City Chiefs player that you're going to bring up here in just a moment, the draft pick, the guy who choked a pregnant girlfriend, 9 months ago and pleaded guilty for it. A lot of outrage about that, as there should be. It's neat to see the community have its priorities in place. This is against an organization that has really prided itself and done so well when it comes to picking players of character the last number of years. This is clearly an aberration from that. The hierarchy of the Chiefs, recognizing that, trying to deal with it. I'm not sure they've made the right choice here.
Steve Alcrow.
Right, I agree with a lot of what Steve says, particularly as it relates to the Chiefs, because, as you said, they have always presented themselves as a organization with character and integrity, and their player choice in this instance certainly runs counter to that.
Just quickly, we should note that the prosecutors in Wyandotte County say they'll seek the death penalty against the suspect in the Lancaster killing, which is interesting. Typically, death penalty cases are not brought very often in Wyandotte County. And of course, Kansas's own death penalty jurisprudence is interesting. It's been more than 50 years since anyone has been executed in the state, or roughly 50 years. So it'll bear watching to see how that plays out in terms of how this suspect is prosecuted and what happens in that case.
Big crowds converged on downtown Kansas City last weekend as streetcars began running again nearly 60 years after they disappeared from city streets. Did the streetcars match expectations? You were on the streetcars Friday experimenting and testing them out, weren't you, Steve?
My wife and I went down on Sunday evening and took a ride, Nick. In the rain, the crowds were lower than I was just taken with it. It took me a block to figure out this was just the greatest thing in the world. And it took me 2 blocks to recognize, boy, we've got to extend this this line out to the plaza to really make it a more utilitarian kind of service that would involve thousands of more people benefiting from this new thing. I just thought it was great.
Kresge just said it's the greatest thing in the world. That suggests the bar for his entertainment is rather low as well. Because I had a chance, Nick, to ride it a couple of times. We went last night down to River Market for dinner with my family, and it was great. But it is a novelty. Let's just be clear. It isn't designed to take people from point A to point B for business or for serious things. It's an entertainment, and as long as it's just that, it'll be fine. But it won't be anything more than that. People who think that the streetcar is some sort of mass transit infrastructure improvement are probably going to be disappointed.
There were concerns, though, that there could be, that we're going to have problems with the homeless riding the streetcar, and there might be incidents of violence or other types of petty crime that would occur on the streetcar. But the Kansas City Streetcar Authority reporting 0 incidents.
That's my understanding, too. I've been on it a couple times. I haven't seen any incidents that would cause me concern. And that could happen on any public transit, form of public transit. It happened to me one time when I was on a bus in Kansas City. There was a fight that broke out in the back. So, concerns about that could be could happen anywhere. Like I said, I've taken it a couple times. I took it to go to a meeting in the River Market, and it was nice. It was fine. But there also could be some perspective on this. I mean, it's 2 linear miles in a city that's 319 square miles. I don't know how transformative it'll be. I guess we'll just have to wait.
I was looking at some of the reports from some of the other news crews from other cities, Barbara, including from Milwaukee, where they're going to be using exactly the same streetcar trains in their cities. They're coming up later this year. And in all of those reports, they were all amazed that this system here was going to be free, where in their cities, which they're going to launch later this year, they're going to be charging for it. So that's one distinction that many people don't realize.
Well, the reason I had heard for why it was free is because, what they would charge wouldn't justify the apparatus that would be needed to collect money. You need people and machines and things. But I've also heard that if things don't go the way the streetcar backers envision, that it may not remain free indefinitely.
In fact, one of the reports said it was free for the first year. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues on the novelty nature of this, but I think this is a little bit more of a moment than we're giving it credit for. This community has fought for years, decades, over the next step in mass transit. We've finally taken it. It's a great service, and it's potentially an even greater service if we can expand it and make it more useful to a whole lot more people.
I couldn't help noticing, though, Dave, in one of your columns this week, yes, celebrating all the crowds downtown for the streetcar, but also juxtaposing something that Barbara mentioned earlier, which was in the same weekend they've shut down a bridge over Grand Avenue, over the highway, because there are huge swaths of concrete falling off the bridge and it's crumbling.
And the point I was trying to make a little bit is the streetcar is nice and we like it, and it's novelty or utilitarian, but it isn't free. It isn't. It just didn't fall from the sky. It costs $50 million a mile, and if they do another 5 miles, that's $250 million. Well, maybe it's worth that. Maybe it's worth $250 million to build another 5 miles. But maybe it isn't. Maybe there is a better way to spend $250 million in Kansas City. And I think all communities wrestle with this. It's about priorities and understanding what alternatives are out there. And sometimes Kansas City doesn't really have that conversation as much as it needs to.
We recently reported on this program how Kansas City still doesn't know what to do with a mothballed Kemper Arena, with a flashier and newer Sprint Center taking all of its business. Well, now Johnson County wants to get in on the act by building a 6,000-seat arena at 159th and Antioch. And that's not all. Also promised an interactive space museum, a satellite facility of the Cosmosphere Space Museum in Hutchinson. Is the Blue Hawk project, as it's called, just a pipe dream? Well, this week, to the dismay of some homeowners in the area, the Overland Park Planning Commission giving rezoning approval for the $1 billion project. Overland Park built a soccer complex. In that same city, they built the Prairie Fire Museum. Is there any reason this shouldn't become a reality, Steve Vockrodt?
Well, they'll have to come up with the money for it, and it's a little tricky for me to understand where this new demand is for hockey arenas in this
yes,
area.
because this is going to be a hockey arena with Lamar Hunt Jr., who has the Missouri Mavericks, wanting to put a youth hockey team there.
Right, and let's not forget that there's also a proposal up in Wyandotte County that's in conjunction with the idea that the American Royal would move out there. There's some talk about trying to do some type of a junior hockey league sort of thing out there. To me, these are risky propositions in part because of the stability of these hockey leagues is not the best, it's not the greatest. I mean, we've seen a little bit of that with the Missouri Mavericks. They're still around and they're still in their league, but that's had some issues.
But there is a fear that they're actually going to move the Missouri Mavericks to this new Johnson County arena. Why else would they be building an arena that's actually bigger than the Silverstein Ice Center arena in Independence?
Well, they say that's not going to happen.
Okay.
But having said this, this is what sprawl does to a community. Now you start duplicating assets in this part of our community that's halfway to Wichita, Nick. It's too far gone, and I think we need to be thinking about consolidating in this era of diminishing natural resources instead of sprawling all over the world and offering these kinds of amenities halfway to Wichita.
This week, the American Royal announces it's moving its annual barbecue contest to the Kansas Speedway this fall. Just one more piece of big positive economic news for Wyandotte County. In another development, county officials greenlight plans to reopen the Woodlands Racetrack in Kansas City, Kansas. Commissioners voting unanimously to approve a Las Vegas developer's request for a special use permit that would allow 750 electronic gaming machines along with live horse racing. So what happens now? Can we go out there and get ready to place our bets, Steve?
No, this thing's still pretty long in the tooth. So just to put the Unified Government Commission's vote into context, what they approved was a special use permit for the Woodlands, and that's based on very technical legal questions. And cities have to be very careful in how they evaluate applications for these types of things, because if you turn them down for reasons that don't conform with the law, the developer can sue you. So my interpretation of the vote in this instance is we'll give him this, and then he's going to have to come back with a development agreement, and that's when we can really vet out whether A, we want the Woodlands to reopen and what it's going to look like. Important, too, to consider is the Woodlands is lobbying for a change in legislation that governs the tax rates for gaming at its facility.
Okay. In short here, this is not happening anytime soon, Dave.
No, I can remember being at the Woodlands with Kathleen Sebelius signing legislation allowing slot machines at the Woodlands, and they're still not out there. So this is a long-told story, and the Hollywood Casino isn't happy about it either.
Alrighty, that is our Week in Review. Thanks to our news reviewers. I'm Nick Haynes. Thanks all for joining us. Thanks for spending part of your weekend with us.